The Return of Sherlock Holmes, 1905. Episode 3, The Adventure of the Dancing Men. Welcome back, fellow detectives. In our previous cases, we've seen how evidence can be manufactured and how death itself can be faked. But today's mystery presents a different kind of challenge, a code that seems innocent, even childish at first glance, yet carries a message of terror that will destroy a happy marriage and lead to tragedy. Have you ever received a message that looked like meaningless scribbles, only to discover it contained a deadly threat? What if I told you that simple stick figures could spell out someone's doom? Prepare yourself for one of Holmes's most brilliant displays of code-breaking genius. Picture yourself at Baker Street on a warm July morning in 1898. You're reviewing case files with Holmes when a telegram arrives from Norfolk, requesting an urgent consultation. The sender is Hilton Cubitt, a country squire from Ridingthorpe Manor, and his message is brief but intriguing. Strange drawings appearing around my property, wife terrified, please come at once. Strange drawings? Watson muses. That hardly seems like a matter for Sherlock Holmes. Perhaps vandalism by local children? But notice how Holmes's eyes light up with that particular gleam that means he's sensed something deeper beneath the surface. On the contrary, Watson, Holmes replies, studying the telegram. When a respectable country gentleman uses the word terrified to describe his wife's reaction to mere drawings, I suspect we're dealing with something far more sinister than childhood pranks. Besides, I've been rather bored lately. A trip to Norfolk might prove diverting. The journey takes you through the beautiful English countryside to Ridingthorpe Manor, an ancient estate surrounded by fields and woodlands. Hilton Cubitt greets you at the door. A solid, honest-looking man of about 45, clearly worried but trying to maintain his composure. "Thank you for coming, Mr. Holmes," he says, ushering you into his study. "I know this must seem like a trivial matter, but my wife Elsie is in genuine distress over these strange messages, and I'm at my wit's end trying to understand them." Holmes settles into a chair with keen attention. "Tell me everything from the beginning, Mr. Cubitt. When did these drawings first appear?" Cubitt pulls out several pieces of paper from his desk drawer, each showing a series of stick figures in various poses, like children's drawings of dancing men. "It began about a month ago," Cubitt explains. "I found this paper on the sundial in our garden." He shows the first drawing, a row of crude stick figures, some with flags, some with arms raised, all seemingly dancing. "I thought nothing of it. Assumed it was left by village children playing some game." "But your wife recognized them?" Holmes asks, his fingers already tracing the patterns of the dancing figures. Think about this, detective. What kind of drawings would terrify a grown woman if they appeared to be nothing more than harmless doodles? Cubitt's face darkens. "She turned white as a sheet when she saw them, begged me to burn the paper and never speak of it again. But then more appeared, chalked on the tool house door, on the windowsill. Always these dancing stick figures. Each time Elsie becomes more frightened, though she refuses to explain why." Holmes leans forward with intense interest. "Tell me about your wife, Mr. Cubitt. Where did you meet her? What do you know of her past?" The squire shifts uncomfortably. "That's the difficult part, Mr. Holmes. I met Elsie in London a year ago. She was the most beautiful, refined woman I'd ever encountered. We fell deeply in love, and I proposed within 3 months. But before she accepted, she made me promise something." Cubitt's voice grows troubled. "She said she'd had some unfortunate experiences in her past. Nothing dishonorable, she assured me, but things she wanted to leave behind forever. She asked me to marry her without questions, to never inquire about her life before we met. And like a fool in love, I agreed." Watson interjects. "Surely you asked some questions about her family, her background?" Cubitt shakes his head. "She said she had no family left, that she was alone in the world. I could tell the topic caused her pain, so I respected her wishes. We married, moved to Norfolk, and for a year we were perfectly happy, until these dancing men began appearing." Holmes examines the drawings with his magnifying glass, and you can practically see his brilliant mind working. "These are not random doodles, Mr. Cubitt. This is a substitution cipher. Each figure represents a letter of the alphabet. Someone is sending your wife coded messages, and she understands what they say. But who would send coded messages? Cubitt asks desperately. And what could they possibly say that would frighten her so? Holmes's expression grows grave. That's what we need to discover. Have you kept all the drawings? I'll need to see everyone to break the cipher. Over the next few days, more dancing men appear. Each time, Holmes carefully copies the figures into his notebook, studying the patterns, counting the frequency of each symbol. You watch as he works through the night, comparing figures, testing theories, gradually building his understanding of this cryptic alphabet. The key to breaking any substitution cipher, Holmes explains to you and Watson, is frequency analysis. In English, the letter E appears most often, followed by T, A, O, and so on. By counting which dancing figures appear most frequently, we can begin to assign letters to them. Can you see the brilliance of this method, detective? Even the most elaborate code is vulnerable if the code breaker understands the underlying patterns of language. What looks like meaningless dancing figures is actually a message as clear as printed words, once you have the key. After 2 days of intense work, Holmes cracks the code. His face turns grim as he reads the decoded messages. The first message says, "Elsie, prepare to meet thy God." The second, "Am here, Abe Slaney." The third, which arrived this morning, "Come, Elsie, come." Cubitt's face drains of color. Who is Abe Slaney? What does he want with my wife? Holmes stands and begins pacing, his mind racing through possibilities. Your wife is being hunted by someone from her past, someone who knows this code, who expects her to understand these messages. The threats are clear: come to him or face consequences. We must speak with Mrs. Cubitt immediately, Holmes declares, but when they go to find her, Elsie Cubitt refuses to see them. Through the locked door of her room, she pleads, "Please, leave me alone. I can handle this myself. Don't involve yourselves. It will only make things worse." Holmes calls through the door, "Mrs. Cubitt, I know about Abe Slaney. I know he's threatening you, but hiding in your room won't make him go away. Let me help you before this situation turns violent." There's a long silence, then quiet sobbing from within. That night, Holmes writes his own message using the dancing men cipher, a trap designed to lure Slaney into the open. He chalks it on the garden shed. "Come here at once." If his decoding is correct, Slaney will interpret this as a message from Elsie agreeing to meet him. "Are you certain this will work?" Watson asks nervously. Holmes checks his revolver. "No, but it's our best chance to end this before tragedy strikes. Slaney is clearly growing impatient, and desperate men do desperate things. We need to confront him on our terms, not his." They set up watch that night, hiding in the darkness near the garden shed. Hours pass in tense silence. Then, near midnight, a figure appears at the garden gate, a tall American with a hard, dangerous look about him. He sees the chalked message and approaches cautiously. "Now, Watson!" Holmes springs the trap, you and Watson emerging from hiding to block the man's escape. But Slaney is faster than anticipated. He draws a revolver and fires toward the house before Holmes can stop him. The shot shatters a window, and there's a scream from inside. They rush into the house to find a horrifying scene. Hilton Cubitt lies dead on the floor of his study, shot through the heart. Elsie Cubitt stands nearby, a revolver in her hand, blood spreading across her dress from a wound in her shoulder. She collapses before they can reach her. "My God!" Watson breathes, rushing to examine both victims. "Cubitt is dead. Mrs. Cubitt is badly wounded but alive. What happened here?" Holmes's face is stricken with the realization that he's arrived too late to prevent tragedy. The sequence of events becomes clear. Slaney, thinking Elsie had summoned him, approached the house. Cubitt, alerted by Holmes's warnings, confronted him with a revolver. Slaney shot first, killing Cubitt. Elsie then grabbed her husband's fallen weapon and shot Slaney, wounding him before collapsing herself from grief and injury. Holmes and Watson manage to capture the wounded Slaney before he can escape. As local police arrive and doctors attend to Mrs. Cubitt, Holmes extracts the full story from the American criminal. "Elsie was my girl in Chicago," Slaney confesses bitterly. "Part of our gang, the most dangerous outfit in the States. She was the daughter of our boss, and everyone assumed we'd marry. But she hated the criminal life, wanted out. She fled to England, changed her name, and tried to start over. I tracked her down, Slaney continues. Used our old gang code, the dancing men's cipher we developed for secret communications. I wanted her to come back, thought I could persuade her. When she wouldn't respond, I got angry. Decided if she wouldn't come willingly, I'd force her. Holmes's voice is cold with fury. You destroyed an innocent man's life because you couldn't accept that she'd moved on. Hilton Cubitt died never knowing his wife's secrets, killed in his own home while trying to protect her from her past. Over the following weeks, the tragic aftermath unfolds. Elsie Cubitt survives her wound but is shattered by grief and guilt. She tells Holmes everything. How she'd been born into a criminal family in Chicago. How she'd participated in illegal activities as a young woman. How she'd finally escaped and come to England desperate to leave that life behind. I thought if I never spoke of it, if I buried it deep enough, it would stay buried, she weeps. I loved Hilton with all my heart. I would have told him everything eventually when I felt safe enough. But Abe found me, and now my husband is dead because of my past. Holmes works to ensure she receives mercy from the law, arguing that she acted in self-defense and that her past crimes were committed under duress in America, outside British jurisdiction. Slaney is convicted of Hilton Cubitt's murder and sentenced to death, though he shows no remorse. She was mine, Slaney insists at his trial. She belonged to our world, and she had no right to run away and play at being a respectable English lady. If I couldn't have her, nobody should. Back at Baker Street, Holmes sits in melancholy silence, the dancing men papers spread before him. I broke the cipher, he says quietly to Watson. I decoded every message, but I was too slow to save Hilton Cubitt's life. If I'd understood the urgency sooner, if I'd decoded it faster. Watson tries to comfort him. You can't blame yourself, Holmes. You solved an incredibly complex cipher in just 2 days. That's remarkable. But Holmes shakes his head. In our profession, Watson, remarkable means nothing if the client dies. Cubitt hired me to protect his wife and understand the threat. I accomplished the second, but failed at the first. What about Mrs. Cubitt, you ask? Will she recover? Holmes's expression is somber. Physically, yes. But she'll carry the guilt of her husband's death for the rest of her life. She tried to escape her past, to become someone new, but it followed her across an ocean and destroyed the innocent man she loved. This case haunts Holmes for years afterward. He keeps the dancing men papers in his files, occasionally taking them out to study, as if searching for some lesson he missed, some way he could have solved it faster and saved Hilton Cubitt's life. So tell me, detective, did you recognize that the dancing figures were a cipher before Holmes explained it? What does this tragic case teach us about the impossibility of truly escaping our past? And most importantly, was Elsie Cubitt wrong to hide her history from her husband? Or was she simply trying to protect a love too precious to risk? This heartbreaking mystery reminds us that some secrets, no matter how deeply buried, eventually claw their way back to the surface. The dancing men may have looked like innocent stick figures, but they carried messages of death and destruction that reached across continents to destroy a peaceful English marriage. It also shows us that even Sherlock Holmes, with all his genius, sometimes arrives too late to prevent tragedy. The greatest detective in the world can solve any mystery, break any code, catch any criminal. But he cannot turn back time to save those who die before he fully understands the danger they face. Join me next time as we investigate The Adventure of the Solitary Cyclist, where a young woman's mysterious bicycle stalker leads Holmes to uncover a conspiracy involving kidnapping, forced marriage, and hidden fortunes.